So go ahead, Jake.
Yeah. All right. Well, our first game this week is going to be against Golden State, and I believe it's a back to back. I think it's going to be Monday and Tuesday.
Against same, right? Golden State, Golden
Yeah,
State.
yeah, it'll be back to back against Golden State. And so we already played these guys once.
And
We
they smashed us.
They smashed us, right? Like it wasn't a
Mm-mm.
pretty game. And I will say now we're not gonna have LaMarcus. Chris was already talking about how we're not gonna have him, and in my head that already became a net positive. Like I mean, I was already talking so high about Trey, and then Drew showed what he could do in in these Houston games that like, man, honestly, we I feel like this game against Golden State, like the fact that I think Drew and Jakob can kind of be a little bit better in that pick and roll situation than LaMarcus can.
And and
I
and you know, last night they played the Mavericks, right? And I believe that they have injuries, and I don't know if that's going to carry over into our games. But they were saying that they didn't have nobody over 6'7" playing
Oh, wow.
as far as Golden State. So
Yeah, so
and I was thinking the same thing. I'm like, man, if we could get that, and I don't know, what their injury situation looks like, but if we could get that going into our games, man, Jakob, he needs to show up. He needs to show up big time.
yeah, for sure, for sure.
We'll get
Um
we'll get a lot more Drew Eubanks post up hooks against those short boys.
I'll take it. I'll take it.
yeah, I mean I don't know if I don't know what the ending stat line was, but I kind of want to shine some spotlight on the fact that Draymond Green went like scoreless, but still had like 6 rebounds, 6 assists, and like a couple blocks, something
Hmm.
along the lines of that. And it definitely showed like the most Draymond Green stat ever because he was doing everything on the court except for scoring.
Mm-hmm.
Uh, and I, it was brought to notice that I talked a whole lot of trash about Draymond, and I just kept talking a lot of trash about Draymond in our Warriors preview. So I'll try to keep myself from saying as how much I don't think Draymond Green's an all star, right?
But I don't
Uh,
think he's ever been All-Star either. I'm right there with you. I really
but
don't.
no, I give praise for this Warriors team. That like I mean they picked it up, you know. They've had some guys that have definitely taken a couple steps up. It's really good to see people like Andrew Wiggins actually do solid. You know, I I I, I still hope for the best for him. I still want him to succeed, wherever it is, and you know, I don't want him to be one of those first overall picks that people go and say like, oh yeah, they should have drafted this guy instead. Like, no, I want Andrew Wiggins to be the best player from the 2014 draft at
Yeah,
the end of the
and
day.
but I mean, and speaking about like us having to play against him, I mean, we still need to be on our toes this whole game because I mean, how many didn't Kelly Oubre go off for another 30 something points last night? Also,
Dang,
uh,
I don't know about that.
Steph Curry goes off for 50 something and Kelly goes off for 30. You know, they when I say they, I mean the Mavericks. The Mavericks are able to withstand that because they have a guy like Luca who can also go off. You know what I mean? And so it's like, do we have that? I
Just
mean,
whack fouls.
Demar has two back-to-back 30-point games, and neither one of them felt like he was going off. I mean, he was just very
They were just in
consistent,
the flow of the
very
offense.
yeah, exactly. So I mean, and and I'll take it. I'll take a 30-point game, however it looks. But you know how it is when you play a team like Golden State, who let's say they just hang around and then they just kind of punch you 3 times in a row at the worst time. You know what I mean? Like at the time that you don't need, or they have a good job, and Steph Curry really has a good job of feeling that moment in the fight of like, if I hit you now, it will mean more. And so I'm going to take this shot from from 40 feet because I can make it
Mhm.
anyway. You know what I mean? So, man, these are the teams that scare me a little bit. The ones where the flash gets turned up a little bit, just because sometimes we don't match that energy. And so, I don't know. We did pretty well against them. Well, not that one game. We didn't play too well against them that one game, but I don't know. How are you guys feeling in terms of our ability to kind of corral the people we need to corral and win is ultimately is what we're looking for.
Yeah, well, hopefully we learn from the last game, right? And we take something positive into this one, and we could turn it around.
Yeah.
I don't know. I don't know what they're like. I was telling Jake, I don't know what that injury situation looks like. Hopefully we are the bigger team out there, and we could utilize our size a little bit more this game and get the dub. Back-to-back games, it would be nice.
Yeah, for
But
sure.
we're gonna see. Like you said, Chris, we gotta hold Steph, and we gotta hopefully one of those other guards don't go crazy.
Yeah. And the good thing is, we talked about the last two games, the Rockets and the Minnesota game. Both of them were wins, but like what I like to see is our defensive like rotations looked a lot better last night against the
Yeah.
Rockets. When they were doing that, because it feels like nowadays it's literally like you just take a screen one direction, and then instead of swinging it like back to the top of the horn and then let them swing it over, the ball handler just pushes it all the way across the court. With like a big, cross court pass, and that pass has been just leaving people wide open on threes. Not just the Spurs, but kind of like a little bit from what I've seen on other teams as well. And so it was good to see like those big swing passes come around, but as soon as they touch the ball, somebody's running at them. Like it just felt like we had our heads more in line with what we needed to do. So I'm really hoping that part continues because Steph will make you pay for that real fast. So
Yeah.
but I'm feeling again, I've been my whole goal this year has been trying to take into account a little bit of our general ups and downs of the season, but really on a game to game basis, how do I feel like do we have enough to do what we need to do? And how many times are you going to have are you really going to say no, I think we're going to lose this one, you know what I mean?
Right. I mean, I think the best way that we'll be able to go about this, especially if what Josh says is true about like those injuries, is honestly like our size, and then the fact that we don't have not necessarily that it's a bad thing all the time, but like just like LaMarcus out there on that defensive end. Like I mean, I don't if memories like serves me right, like it didn't happen a crazy amount of times as I was expecting it, but I know there were a couple times where LaMarcus gets torched on that pick and roll. So it's like the fact that he won't be there on that defensive end, it'll really help us. It'll really help us on the fact that I think that Jakob will be able to rotate a little bit better. And if we're still running Drew tomorrow, then I think he'll be able to do it even like I think that he's a little bit faster than Jakob is on those rotations too. So it's like I think that he might actually be able to kind of provide a bit of a strong point on that end too.
Yeah.
Especially if they don't have size and he can just kind of be like a bigger body in the paint. Like I think it'll be solid. I think he'll be that guy that fights for the rebounds, just like we see Keldon does, just like we'll see DJ kind of try to do, and it's like I think I saw that coming from Derek a lot too these last couple of games. So I'll like seeing somebody a little bit bigger than the rest of our guards to actually be in the paint fighting for a rebound.
Yeah, yeah, so we had mentioned earlier when we said like what can Drew and Trey bring to the table, and that's something that I had mentioned last night when we were talking with each other was, it was good to see, in my opinion, it was good to see Drew Eubanks at the end of plays being somebody who stays back and secures a board. I think we've been used to seeing Jakob and or really it's been like a lot of LaMarcus. Not and I think it's by design. If I'm being honest, I think that the coaches told him not to worry about it. I think they told him to get back on defense. We need you to not be a liability running slow up the court just because you stayed back to get a board. So it was good to see Drew like hanging back and grabbing some boards, getting it up to our guards, and then sprinting back onto the other floor because he's a little he's more mobile than LA has been. So yeah, I think it will be good to see how our defense. I'm excited for this next couple games because of that. If we're gonna be without LA for a little bit, well, let's just keep reopening the same questions and start to see like, do we like what we look like without a player like LaMarcus Aldridge in terms of what he brings his skill set. I'm not trying to I don't know. I don't want to bash him because I'm not trying to say that we're better without him. And I totally understand the amount of slack we have to bring to make up for what we're losing when he's not on the court. Like, I get all that, but I just want to see, like, what are some pros and cons to how we defend certain plays, with a guy like Drew out there or Trey out there versus a guy like LA. So that's going to be on my radar as we move forward through these next couple games.
Well, I will be the one that'll say I think that this week will show us whether or not we're gonna be better without LA or not, or like with or without LA. And I'm on the side of, hey, if I see Drew and Trey step up this week, I'm definitely gonna be having my pitchforks ready to go once I see LA back on that court.
Yeah, but I mean, so we've kind of gone in waves, right? Because we had the bubble was no LA. We started the year without him, right?
I think we started with him, right?
But
No,
just
and then he got hurt.
Okay. So, but either way, it was like, so then he was there for a little bit, and then he was gone for a little bit, right? And then he was back for a little bit, and now he's gone for a little bit. So we are getting a chance to kind of see, and it sucks because the inconsistency part of it sucks for the team overall. But it is, you do get a chance to see, okay, what do we look like with and without? And at the beginning of the year, I was definitely on the side of the fence of like, we need to give LA more time to get in rhythm and then to really fairly evaluate how we like him. And I think I'm still trying to give him as much benefit of the doubt as possible. But I've definitely seen many moments out there where you just he just is a little too slow. He's just a little too slow.
And I tried to be on that opposite side too, because we were winning games at the time. Like whenever LA was out, you look at that win-loss pool, and like having LA, I think we'd only lost like 2 games up at that point, and then without LA we lost like I think like 3 to 4. And so it was so like, yeah, like I mean, even though we can say that we don't like the way LA's out plays out there, we're getting W's. So it's like what's the what you can't argue with wins, so it's like
Yeah,
it's
I definitely see I see that, but also when you got a guy like Derek White come back and we lose the first 2 games, so it's like
right, and that's why like I mean, it's for me though, like it's easier to argue whether or not a player is a good impact player through a loss or a win than it is to just say, oh well, they like, in terms of just saying like oh, I don't like the way Luka, or I guess like a better one, because the Mavericks haven't been winning games, but like I don't like the way LeBron plays, but the Lakers are like the first or second team in the West, and that's just like just to kind of bring up an example, whatever, right?
yeah.
But compared to like if I said I don't like the way LeBron plays and they were losing games, like I could definitely give you an argument saying why if they were losing games compared to saying why if they were winning games, right? But the matter of the point is that like earlier in the season we were winning games with LA, and I couldn't just argue with the fact that we were winning. So now I need us to, or not that I need us to, but like I would like to see if we can actually win games, if we can actually kind of show that like LA isn't exactly the reason why we're winning games, like
Yeah.
clearly as Spurs fans we kind of watch it and we're like, oh yeah, we pretty much know that he isn't, but we were still winning games with him on the court and losing games with him not on the court.
Yeah.
So we need to
and,
like
and really it's like a thing of, there are more than one kind of way to win a basketball game. And if one of them requires like X amount of energy and we're working so hard and we're squeaking out some wins, and the other one, maybe we can work a little less hard and have a little bit more team ball and still get wins, and maybe even more wins than over here. You know what I mean? This is the side we're going to go with. So yeah, I mean, this will be a fun week to see. And again, not to say that Drew Eubanks and Trey Lyles equals LaMarcus Aldridge. Like he's better than both of those players combined. You know what I mean? But in terms of what our team needs, if we can start to see in our head of what is the type of player we do need, as we start to look for like next year and all that kind of stuff, I think that's kind of where the coaches, glasses come on and start to try to evaluate,
I feel like we have the guys that I feel like we have the offensive firepower to make up for LaMarcus not being there. And then I feel like with him being off the court, our guys have to work a little less hard on defense.
Mm-hmm.
Like if we have just somebody that's not, it sucks calling him a liability all the time, but it's kind of what he is, So I feel like it balances itself out, like we're gonna have to work a little bit less hard on the defensive end because we're gonna have somebody there that's gonna be a okay defender, and then I feel like our guys can make up for his offense. So
yeah,
and
our spacing
it's hard. It sucks to say that, right? Because
our
LaMarcus is a good player,
spacing
but
goes down so much without LaMarcus, and that's something that like I try to keep in my mind.
Say that again, Jake. What goes down?
Our spacing, like the fact that Jakob's on the court instead of LaMarcus starting.
But if Trey's out there, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Yeah.
But
Okay.
at the moment, Trey hasn't been getting those rotational
and
center minutes.
I'll give some not necessarily credit to DeMarcus, but some of those spacing issues are not his fault. Like they're young guards' fault. You know what I mean? For being in wrong places, and it's like, or if you see that the spacing's off, move, my friend. You know what I mean? Like some of those things are not his fault. But yeah, I get what you're saying. And then like Josh, when you're saying about like us being able to make up for his offense, again, I'll try to give him a little bit more credit. Is like sometimes I bet the coaches are put in that position of like, yes, we feel like we have the tools to make up offensively what we're going to lose, but some nights the young studs don't show up with that intensity of like, I need to make up this point on the, you know what I mean? Like they don't have that in them sometimes, or I guess we haven't been able to rely on them every single game. Whereas like if you put LA in there, he's first of all, he wants his shots because he's a rhythm guy, and if he can get into a rhythm, he's one of the guys who can get you 30 on our team. So, I can feel for the coaches in terms of like knowing when to rely on him and when to try to test to see what we can be without him, because he does bring so much to us, and our guys haven't shown 100% like they're willing to take up any kind of space that he's going to leave when he's not on the team. You know what I mean? So we're still in the transition. We're in the transition. So we'll this is it's been a good year so far. I feel like we have learned a lot about our team so far. If you think back to what we were hoping to learn from us at the beginning of the year, we have Keldon Johnson, Lonnie Walker, Derek White, DeJounte Murray, all as question marks as young guys, and then we have DeMar DeRozan, LA, Patty, Rudy as question marks as old guys, and so everybody's stories are moving forward.
Then you throw in the mix of all like as well as like Trey, Devin,
I kind of forgot. I forgot Vassell.
Like I definitely get what you mean there.
And those guys, those not lesser players, but the more role players, those guys' fates are kind of tied directly linked into those guys that I mentioned before. So but yeah, so we'll continue to develop these theories and these talks of what do we think we look like better, with or without LA as we move forward. So all right, Jake, let's shift gears over to our next game. Yeah.
Right. So, obviously, just a last reiteration of just saying that we do play these guys Monday and Tuesday. This is going to be a back-to-back. So it's going to be a fun little matchup. I personally, honestly, I've been enjoying these like baseball type series. First of all, I'm wearing a baseball.
Exactly. Me too.
Shirt, right?
But, me too. I'm wearing a baseball style shirt too.
I've been enjoying like these little mini series in the in like the league and stuff like that. It's always fun just to kind of see like, okay, can we split? Can we just destroy these guys 2 games and then move on? Like in some aspects, like the playoffs, it kind of hurts because like, I mean, obviously I guess in terms of just like figuring out whether or not a team is better, like if you see the Lakers beat the Clippers 2 times in a row at the beginning of the season, and you're like in your mind you're already like, all right, well the Lakers are gonna whoop the Clippers in the playoffs, but
Yeah.
then later down the season you see the Clippers finally pick it up, and you're just like, you
Yeah,
can't exactly have those regular season games for you to find the right comparisons.
mhm.
But I still like I like this way of doing these little series, just because it does kind of like it does kind of tackle things bits at a time, and like now it's like after these two games, now we do have our finished record against the Warriors, so now
Yeah.
the playoffs are a little bit more cemented. We can kind of see um as the year goes on, instead of it always being like that race. And of course in the West, those couple seeds are always going to be changing up here or there, but towards the end you start to see it cement itself. And I think this will kind of make it go a little bit faster, honestly, because you see
Yeah,
team series and you see where teams are up and where teams are down, and I feel like it's gonna be amazing. Like
I
looking at
do
that later
I
on in the
do
year.
like the I do like the I feel like from a coaching standpoint it would be cool. You do get a chance to kind of compartmentalize a little bit more, where you're like, okay, we get Houston back to back, let's really prep for them. And you know, you get a chance to kind of put your brain in those positions too. When you're playing the Houston Rockets, let's say it's the Spurs regular season, we play them 4 times a year, but we got them like twice in the first half and twice in the second half. You know, when you're playing the Rockets, like let's say like the second time, you're not necessarily thinking about like the fourth time that you're gonna play them. You know what I mean? Like you're just, you know, you're thinking about yourself as you are in the season. But now when it's like, okay, we've played them already twice, and now we're gonna have a back to back where we're gonna go to Houston, we're gonna finish out the season series. Now you can kind of think a little bit more about what that fourth game means, as well as and I know, you know, you don't want to get ahead, but I think it does help get you just a little bit more like mental practice of that aspect of it. And you know, from if you're a team that goes to the playoffs all the time, you might think like that already. You know what I mean? Like you might already kind of have some of that. But if you're a team that is never making the playoffs, it's good to get practice like that. It's good to have the idea of, I'm going to play Boston 2 times in a row. If I lose the game, what am I going to do to try to adjust and get back on the right track against these same people? So I honestly, as we move past COVID, hopefully, for next year,
To
I would
keep
like
seeing
for
those
things
games.
like this to stay. Now, it'll probably look a little different because they only released the first half of the schedule, right? For this year up until March or whatever. Because they wanted to leave some buffer room in case they needed to cancel games or any of that kind of stuff. So it probably will look a little different next year when they do the full year and all that kind of stuff. But I would be a fan if they continue to keep some of uh, um, these travel blocks where they go to New York and play New York twice, and then they'll maybe even play Brooklyn 1 or 2 times also. Like
Mhm.
I think those are things. It's a win-win. I think it'll it's for me as a viewer, it's a win, but also I think logistically it'll help the league.
Yeah,
Hmm.
well, for the players, I think it's a win for the players too, because
Yeah,
like
good point.
less travel time. You know, you get the
Yeah,
best. You're not getting no um, late night travel, and they're up, you know, in their rooms waiting for their bags to shower or
yeah,
whatever the case may be. Right? They get to go rest up, you know, and be play right there in the same city the next day. You know what I mean? Like I
yeah,
feel like the overall games would be better for
You
the
don't have to
NBA to
work
generate
on
too.
you don't have to work around that load management that
yeah.
a lot
And
of
Yeah.
players have been doing.
and Jake, you know, if I'm a basketball player, I'll be honest, I'm a little more on board for like the you were saying, like, you know, when it comes to the end of the year, it's a playoff matchup. Okay, the Lakers swept so and so in the season series, but they played all 3 of the games in December. You know what I mean? Like how that's a little skewed. But if I'm a basketball player, I think I kind of prefer it that way. Of like, yeah, they beat us in the season series, but we've known that since 6 months ago. Like we're
Mhm.
already ahead of that. You know what I mean? Versus like where again, like, you know, it's 2-0 and we have a shot, or you know, it's 2-1. When either we're gonna lose the season series 3-1 or we're gonna tie it 2-2, but we don't know that until the end of the year. I think I'm more on board of like, yeah, like you said, like let's just see it. And you know, and then we can put that in our brain of how we fared against the Lakers at this moment of time in our season. You can kind of have like more benchmarks to go back and look at
Hmm.
as you work your way through the season. Yeah,
And then
so I'm
I
down with that.
and I still like I honestly like the instead of just making everything like a little series. I do like that it's like a mix, because obviously I would I like if we play just nothing but series throughout the entire season, like I would get bored after like the second matchup of us playing against the Grizzlies, and we'd have to play them 2 more times. You know, now in a playoff series, in a playoff series, that's a different story. You know,
Yeah, because
it's
the
like
stakes.
every game. Yeah, exactly, right. But in the regular season, it's like, I
So
want us
so
to win all
maybe
4 games, but
maybe
it's like I
maybe
get a little
they
bored.
maybe if division matchups are 4, in conference matchups are what, like 3 maybe. I don't know. I don't really pay that. I don't dig that deep. But maybe they do divisions. We'll break them up into twos and twos.
Into
You know what I mean?
twos, yeah,
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 two
you,
first
exactly.
half, two second half.
But then like I'm saying that like that mix of just like all right, literally like this, and just thinking about it. We played Houston. Now we're gonna have our series against Golden State, and then
and
we're
then move
gonna
on to
go
somebody
play
else.
Atlanta.
Yeah,
And then
yeah.
we can maybe start another series, or we play another game before we start another series. And I like that. I feel like that mix still kind of creates a little bit of like variety, right? Like I'm not getting bored watching us playing the same teams on a night to night basis in that sense.
Yeah, I agree. I like the variety. So, uh, um, uh, we got two games against Golden State, and we'll continue that train of like we need to win these because the series is wrapping up, right? We wrapped up our series with Memphis, wrapped up our series with Houston, Minnesota. So now we got Golden State. All right, Jake. So what do you want to do? You want to take us to Atlanta?
Yep. All right. So our next game is going to be on